Hello, my wonderfully well family. Um, Coming to the end of another day. Uh, it's almost bedtime for me, and today's been a good day. Mama has been herself, her usual self, with the dementia. Today she was complaining again about bugs biting her and being itchy all over. And I determined I needed a break. And I went for a walk. And I asked my oldest son, who's 22, to watch grandma. And I made sure her food was ready, her medication was out, um, everything I could think to do before I went to the walk, so he wouldn't have to do too much. And when I got back, I don't think my family been so happy to see me. But he said something to me which stood out. And he's like, Mama, now I see what you go through. And it made me think and want to encourage other family caregivers, especially. I know professional caregivers are already sharing the load with other people they work with, other caregivers, other aides. Um, but if you aren't, maybe there's a way you can. Um, but make sure you're sharing the load, asking other people for help. I am really having to be vulnerable and courageous at the same time and brave and ask for help. And I recognized that as I did that, as I shared the road, um, my son got a chance to experience what his mama's role as a caregiver is. He understands that's why I work out, that's why I exercise, that's why I do as much as I can, eat right. That's why I make time for me and do some self care, um, so that my boys, I hope, will not have to experience some of the things that my brother and I are experiencing with mama and that we experienced with daddy too. But so sharing is caring. Share the road. Share the road with people that you trust and people who will at least try to do their best in your absence to take care of your loved one so that you can have some opportunity to take a break and get away, but so that they can also empathize with what you're having to go through in regards to being a caregiver. And that's the other point I want to make. As I was on my walk, when I go on my walks, I talk to the Lord. And while I was on my walk, um, I was reminded when I was watching this gentleman on a TV show, and he was explaining to the interviewer um, that empathy is very important for leaders. It's important for all of us. And he gave the example of a way in order in which to build empathy is to ask the other person, what is it like to be you? Well, while I'm on my walk, I'm thinking about my coaching sessions today. And as I dug into some more information, doing some more research, even on myself and my own strengths, I realized that to ask that question of another person, or to ask that question, not ask it of them, but just ask it in your mind, which is what he was suggesting, for you to imagine what it's like to be them. Um, I really felt like that was not honoring a boundary because it puts you in the position of trying to answer that question also for that individual. And there's just no way you can do it. I understood his point, great point, in order to try to take that first step towards empathy. But I decided while I was on my walk and I felt led to come back home and instead of assuming what it's like to be my mother, to ask her, Mama, what is it like to be you? And so I did. I sat on her bedside If she was in bed, she was complaining about being in pain and just not having had, I guess, too good of a day in her mind. And I asked her, I said, Mama, what is it like to be you? She said, what is it like to be here? And I said, no. What is it like to be you? And she looked at me and she kind of looked up and she said, to be me is to hurt. And my heart just softened. I don't think it broke, it softened. And I just was reminded of what I had been through in my own wellness journey when I too was sick and feeling a lot of pain and wanting to be out of that pain so bad, wanting to be well again. And my mother's 79, and yet what it's like to be her is hurting. And I don't believe that's just physically. I believe it's also emotionally, because she's missing my daddy like nobody's business. But right then and there, asking that question, I asked enough because I cared. And she gave me her honest response. And right then and there, all I could think to do was just rub the places on her that was just itching. She complained of itching and hurting. And I wanted to do something to bring her some relief. So I stopped, I prayed, I rubbed her arms, I rubbed her hands, and I decided to play a tape of her dad, who was a former preacher, and let her listen to her daddy's voice and let her listen to his sermon. But at that point in time, I wanted to do whatever I could to care for her well. The walk helped because the walk made me think of things that I had exposed myself to as I'm trying to grow and be the best person that I can be. And when you're doing that, you're really trying to be the best caregiver that you can be. And so watching certain things on TV, seeing certain videos have helped me. And as I watched this gentleman, that came back to mind. It has come back to mind as I've been with her. What is it like to be you? But this time to go a step further. And instead of imagine, to really ask her, because I wanted to step into the know. I wanted to know from her mouth to my heart. And when I heard her response that to be her is to hurt, I couldn't help but be filled with compassion. I couldn't help but be filled with compassion, because now I didn't have to assume. I knew. And I went straight into giving care with whatever came to mind. So my encouragement to you is stop, care enough to ask the question. Make sure you're taking good care of yourself, because that will instill you at least to want to ask the question. Make sure you're sharing the road with other people who can help you enough so that you can have some time to yourself, some time of reflection, some time of thought, some time of stillness. Stillness is so important. But then once you've filled your cup, come back and ask the question, what is it like to be you? And if it's something that softens your heart, like my mother's response did with me tonight, then do what you can to fill their cup too. So that both of you, the caregiver and the caregivee, the recipient of the care, both of your cups are as full as they could possibly be. All right. This helps us, I believe, be wonderfully well. Good night. Bye-bye.